him start. Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have audio on this? Yes? Yes, good eye. I'm going to run a short video that all the parents in the room will think is very nice, and people without children will think is rather boring, apart from the effects it produces. So what we're going to show here is a video that I created for my children using purely applications that run within the GNU Linux desktop. Afterwards, what I'm going to do is give you a quick rundown of the major applications, not everything that exists, because it's very much like a toolbox. Anybody here who's ever worked with a toolbox knows what it's like. You got one thing for one thing, something for another else. Two things might do the same thing, but one thing's slightly better at half of it. So doing video editing on the Linux desktop is very much like that. I am absolutely and utterly clueless about how you do video editing in Windows or Mac because I've never done it. I don't even know how to compare anything that they have because I've never even looked at them. So all I can do is say this is what I use, and so we're going to give you a bit of a demonstration today. So if this works, this is not my laptop. Here we go. So these are really simple transitions. That's a rather complicated element that uses a number of different images to make up the what, and you can do that in ImageMagic. A small animation. Now this is about 3 different elements in Keynote, and that's a screen capture. Can everybody hear me on this? You could hear me before. Now this is a piece of looped video, and see if you can see where it loops, because where you think it loops isn't necessarily true. This again is just a transition between images that were made, photographs, GIMP, the same here. This is GIMP using a slide transition, so you're actually merging the images. That's using a VideoMax. Again, this is Keynote. So most of these are Keynote transitions like this one and that one. Now this is 2 transitions at once, something coming down and then blending it with a blind. And those are doors, and there's another blind. That's an iris. That's about 5 different effects simultaneously. And that's just ordinary video. Now this is using GIMP to make all of those separate frames, put them in this. There's probably a way of doing it a bit more easily, but this is better control, and creating these borders and then sliding into this. There's another transition. This is purely a Keynote transition and a Keynote effect. You'd have gathered by now I use Keynote most of the time. This animation, about 45 minutes for each second, and again that's a looped video using that drawing that my eldest daughter drew of a butterfly, and this is the youngest one. I've got a 3rd child, the 2nd one in the middle. Now that was actually created using, it'll come back to me actually, no, I very rarely use it, Digicam for that effect, but around a collection of single images which were then merged into a video, which you can do using ImageMagic or ffmpeg. Those colours were done creating GIMP. That, I found a much simpler way of doing it, but that's using ImageMagic and a whole collection of images merged together. All still images, separate frames, put together in a collection like this, and then all of them constructed back into a moving image. I was watching the Brady Bunch at one point and thought, that's a pretty neat one. How do you do that? And then these are all stills, and this runs to the end. I know, she's very clever. She's now 3, so you can imagine what she does. And then you've just got this long piece that then fades out to the end. That was a part of, this is the central part of a video that was made with 3 different parts. And if you're going to do something like this, you need to listen to the song so many times that after a while you start thinking, do I even like this song anymore? It starts to drive you crazy. Remember all the lyrics. If you didn't at the beginning, you will by the end, because what you're trying to do is sequence those images to the sound to actually make an image which flows with the sound that you've got. That's if you want to. Obviously, nobody has to do it like that if they don't want to. So what I'll do is I'll bring up this, I think. Like I said, you just have to bear with me because it's not my laptop and I'm very unclear about where anything is at the moment. That's what I wanted, right there. Which I thought I already opened. Here we go. Now I believe there's a device that was given to me that's going to help me. Actually, Actually, I'll stand here, that'll be easier. This top image was actually, oh, we've got two. I don't need this now, do I? No, there we go. Sorry. The logo at the top was created using GIMP. It's very simple to use. There we go. I started using Linux only like 5 years ago or so, and then decided if I was going to use it, everything I did was going to have to be on there. I'm not going to buy another machine. I'm not going to buy another operating system. Everything's going to have to run on it. Literally, in the last 5 years, the improvements in your ability to create really nice videos has improved out of sight. There's a couple of new applications that have come out just recently. One of them looks stunning, and I'll show you that a bit later on. Like I said, I don't know about the comparisons between Final Cut Pro on Macs or Windows or anything like that, because I don't use them. The few people I know that own them, that own those applications, that run them, one on the Mac and one on Windows, make videos that are not as... I think the one I made was good, okay, so I'll admit that. I think it was good. The people that I know that have paid all this money for these super fabulous ones make videos which in effect are slideshows. You could literally do the same thing in Impress and give them a slideshow and they'd think that was wonderful, so they've paid all this money for something. The majority of people that I think own it don't know what it does, and so they just make slideshows instead. There are loads of different tools available. I use lots of different ones for different parts of the capacity of that application. It's taken me a while to get my head around some of those. I've actually started creating a website so nobody else has to keep going back over the same thing.
So with video editing, is it just a matter of like, I know I've done a little bit on the Windows platform, you line it up and then you drag and drop and you mentioned a lot of programs like GIMP is a graphics editor.
Yep.
But how do you get that involved into your editing here?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Can you hold that to the end?
Yeah.
Good man. This is the one I use almost all the time, and it is, once you've got your head around it, it's not particularly complicated, but once you've got your head around it, it will do the absolute majority of things that anybody who wants to do a video at home, in fact for most things, can use Keynote. It will do a huge range of things. There's no major improvements going on in Keynote at the moment. Most of the people that are involved in it are also involved in KDN Live, but they're still updating Keynote, bug fixing and things like that. They're not adding abilities to Keynote. When it dies, I've got no idea. They're still working on it. Dan Dennedy, who's written to me a few times, I've written to him, is still actively involved in this in KDN Live. So it's a live application that's being improved, but no extra features are being added. Its stability is being enhanced. That said, from what I understand, every video application has some inherent instability to it, and I don't think the ones that I use seem to be overly unstable, apart from one, and I'll come to that one because it's the one I have problems with. But with Keynote, it will import most video that you want to use. It'll transcode it automatically into a .dv, into a sort of raw image, and then you can save it like that if you want to. But it will transcode most video. And here's an idea of the interface that you've got on this. So actually I'll come down here. I know that I'm loud enough already. This is where you have all your videos that you're actually wanting to use, and that's the order that they appear in. This part of the interface is where you can actually cut and splice elements out, and these are exactly what they look like. They're just like VCR tools. So you can fast forward, you can go back one space, you can go forward a space, fast forward to the end of a clip that you've got. And then up here, and I'll show you this application later on, these tabs, and this is why I think it's actually quite simple. The tabs, once you click the tab, it gives you the next interface. You can't really get lost inside something because the major buttons that you really want are actually on the outside of whatever you're doing. You can't be lost and wonder how to get back, because literally if you can't remember where you were, you just click one of these until you find out where you should be or where you want to go. It's really, really simple like that. The next one is a VideoMax, which has some really good transcoding abilities, has some special effects, doesn't have the same range of capacity that that Keynote has, but is pretty good at, and quick at transcoding video from one to another. It's quite nice like that, and you can do some splicing and trimming. It's reasonably simple in that sense, and the special effects seem like they've sort of had a couple of ideas and thought, well, that'd be nice, but they've not followed through on anything else. It's quite unusual, but it's really stable. And sorry, just going back to Keynote, if Keynote crashes, for instance, it will, once you restart it, it will say that you have a project you are working on. Do you want to start that? You want to go back to that project, which is really good. That was introduced about 2 versions back. It's a really, really nice feature for the odd occasion that it does. In VideoMax, you can, it's really simple. If you want a transcolored video, you have to work out what it is that you want, what audio that you want, what format you want. You say, save as, and it'll do it. It's very easy once you've got your head around it. Stop motion, I haven't got any video here to show you because I didn't bring any because there'd be too much video to show you. I really, really like this. Some Norwegian teachers, I think they were, created this. Plug your webcam into your laptop, take your laptop onto the floor, get your little Lego figures or your kids' dinosaurs or the horses, and now I'm admitting what I do during the day. And when you take one still, obviously, it's stop motion, you take a still. When you move the next figure or the background or whatever it is you want to move, you have a ghost behind it. So you literally can knock everything over inadvertently, not that I've ever done that, and you can come back and looking on your screen, on your laptop or your desktop, you can see where everything was and you can put them all back in place where they were and keep going from where you were. It is the simplest stop motion application that I've seen. It's a really, really easy one to use, and at the end of it you can decide that you want to make that video and then it will merge them all together into a video and you've got your stop motion video. Really, really neat. I did a couple with my kids with some dinosaurs and some horses. Super cool application, I love it. It's very nice. And you can see here really easily, it's a super simple interface. And they've introduced this in this version. The current version lets you open up an image in GIMP immediately. Instead of you having to go to where you've got the image and open it in GIMP, highlight the frame. As you can see, all the frames are listed across the top. Highlight a frame, click that, it takes you into GIMP. You can do whatever you want to it there, save it, it comes straight back into this application and you've done your work immediately. Really, really easy. You can see the sort of frames across the top. You can't really sort of see exactly how it works, but what would happen here is if you move this little character, you'll have a ghost image behind that character and you can move it. Obviously you're looking at, you know, like PAL at 25 frames a second, so if you want speed, you've got to move at a further distance. If you want something to move quite slowly and smoothly, you've got to move it incremental, very small incremental changes. Seriously, if even you're curious at all about stop motion, about that, it is the simplest thing going. ZS4, you know when you like something but you hate it simultaneously? The interface on this is so unpleasant. Check this out. And they give you some documentation. The documentation they give you, absolutely brilliant. Perfect, you can't go wrong as long as you follow it. But it is so finicky to try to get an effect. Like this, for instance, this is a photograph of me at a wedding. That's my eldest one when she was quite young. You can zoom in here and then pull back and then create that as a video. You can pan and zoom a whole across the photograph as much as you like. It's fabulous for things like that. I understand from what they say, it's got a huge range of abilities, but I'm buggered if I can work out how to do some of the other things on it. One other thing that it does do is you can put a motion picture inside. For example, they gave a tutorial on this. Put a motion picture in a frame, have the frame swing onto a hinge and then drop. And the whole time the motion picture is playing inside of that frame as though you had an LCD screen hanging on your wall that then dropped off. Super cool, really, really nice to do. They gave a great tutorial. It's about 1,400 steps, and you're thinking, if I make one mistake, you're screwed. I think the guys have got, or women or whoever the hell wrote this, have got some great ideas, but it is very difficult to use. Sinara, I don't know. I'm going to learn, in the next 6 or 7 months, I'm going to learn how to use it. The only problem that I've ever had with using it is that it was so unstable that I could never do anything. I'd start something, it'd crash. I'd go back, I'd start, it'd crash. I'd go back, I'd start, it'd crash. Apparently it's a problem. I now have a quad-core 2.8 gigahertz with 3 gig of RAM. I'm going to give it a go this time because apparently the more powerful your machine is, the more stable it will be. But I haven't tried yet because I haven't had enough time to do it. Well, yeah, and then you know, restart it. Sorry.
So you've got all these different packages.
Yes.
And all that. Do you have to buy them or?
No, no, absolutely not. The reason that my root friend up the back, they will run on, I use Ubuntu 8.04 because I like the LTS versions. I don't like changing all that time. All these things run on that, apart from, I'll tell you which ones don't at the moment. But no, they can all download them, and I would imagine that almost every distro would probably have them in their repositories. Different question. Really happy to answer it, but not right now. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if I could answer it. There are some people here who definitely will answer it better than I ever could. I just have my vague idea of why people do it. I don't do it. I'm a user in that sense. This is the interface. Lots of special effects. You can run 2 collections of video, 2 audio. No, you can actually run 2 audio streams, 2 video streams. I just can't tell you anything about it because some people love it and I cannot use it because it's never stayed stable enough. This is brand new. I literally came across this on Tuesday. OpenShot. And I wrote to them asking them about when they were going to install the effects, and about 3 hours later I had an email back saying the next version will be the beta version and we'll have all the special effects in that. Oh, okay, thank you very much. That's nice to know. So they wrote back to me really, really, really quickly. But it seems quite stable. The bit that I have used it over the last couple of nights playing with it, it seems very, very stable. Super nice interface, very, very simple. Again, the same thing. You can run a number of different tracks of video, and their effects are actually these little things here that you drag down, and then you can make it bigger depending on how long you want the effect to last for. It tells you which you're merging into which. It's a really interesting interface, and I'm going to play with it a lot more because it seems like it's probably going to be one of the better ones, I would say. It's very, very nice. It was quite simple. Actually, I'll just give you an example. See this over here, and this is something that's really nice. It will, if you choose a video stream and you want it purely in the top left hand, top right, bottom left, you say that's where you want it, and that's where it will put it. So what I've done here is I had one video stream running, merged this, as you can see here, this effect of my son in a toy Batmobile. It's another story. You can, take video of a car like we did in Tasmania, travelling down some road in the middle of nowhere in Tasmania, overlaid a photograph of his Batmobile, and then put him inside of that Batmobile as a moving picture, so it looks like he's in the car driving along. It's pretty cool. It's really neat. I'll show you. I've got it on my mobile. So, and at the same time, I was then. This is a 1954 East German TV, and playing on the 1954 East German TV is a video of my daughter in the bath when she still is a little person, and that's actually merging that video, or rather, that's actually overlaying it as it comes up from the background. It's pretty neat. That actually was done in Kino mostly. OpenMovie Editor, I only just had a look at it. This is what they say. OpenMovie Editor is a free and open source video editing program. It seems reasonably simple, doesn't seem to have a lot of special effects, but it seems quite simple in terms of just splicing and editing video together. And this is their interface. It might look a little complicated. I was having trouble with it, trying to work out how to put one layer above another, but I seriously spent, like 60 minutes, an hour and a half maybe on it. I can't do justice to anything. GIMP. GIMP does video. I don't know how to do it though. It says, if you check that out, it's got a huge range of things that it does, which is really neat. But, and this is the problem, I guess. Problem, I suppose, maybe, yeah. I'll call it a problem. If you're just using Final Cut Pro and it does what people say it's supposed to do, and I really don't know exactly what it can do, I'm assuming that you don't need to use different things with it, different applications. I really don't know.
Can you import stills into Kino now?
Yes. You could before. You have been able to do it for a long time, but it's this cute little bit of code that you got to write in the window.
Because that's what that would be, so exporting your thing.
Yes, yes. ffmpeg will let you take a huge collection of still images, make it into a video as well. There's a number of different ways of doing it, but I can give you how to actually import a collection into Kino GopChop. I just bought a BeyondWiz PVR. If all I really want to do is just chop bits of the ads out and things like that, GopChop's the program. Dead simple. All it does is just help you to cut ads out of shows. Really, really simple. It works really well, pretty stable. And there's the interface for that. And yes, my daughter is playing with the toilet. She was experimenting on holidays. She took a bit of toilet paper, put it in, close the lid, push the button, open the lid, gone. Went over, got some more. Put it in, close the lid, press the button, opened it up, gone. And she must have been doing that for 5 minutes. It was very, very funny. So 3 minutes of the 5, I'm hiding around the corner with a video camera, videoing her. She's a scientist at heart. You're supposed to repeat your experiments, I gather. Kdenlive, this is the sort of, a lot of, like I said, the... Okay, then, I will use my personal bridge. Oh, good-o. This is where a number of the Kino developers have moved to, is Kdenlive. Doesn't run really well on 8.04 at all. I understand it runs on later versions of Ubuntu. It should run reasonably well, if not just as well, on any other distribution. You can get it from the repositories as well, if you want to. Has a huge range of, and again, I haven't used it, because it has a Sinara effect on my computer. It crashes a lot, but I understand that's the problem with my version, because it's, as they say, you can try it, but it probably won't work. So I tried it and they were right, and it was nice of them to tell me. It's not me. There's the interface again. Pretty simple interface. My understanding is, again, you can do the same thing. My understanding is you can have a number of multiple video frames, one above the other, and then what you do is you run one and you use one that you want to look at, and you choose where it is you want to cut and splice and add bits in, but you don't actually have to cut them. You just choose which one you want to be able to see. It's actually quite an easy, might sound a bit odd, but once you start doing it, you see it's actually quite a simple concept. Yes, PITIVI provides several ways of creating and modifying a timeline, ranging from a simple synopsis view, a la iMovie, to the full-blown editing view, such as complex view, which puts you in complete control of your editing. I've never used it. It seems like it's got some very basic editing functions, but that's all I could find in it, that it had some basic editing functions. So I'm assuming they're working on that. Smile. Do I love this? You absolutely cannot run it on an ordinary base grade laptop, or on probably on a pre-dual processing desktop. Buggered if I know why. It wouldn't work really happily for me before. It works really nicely. It will not work on my laptop. This is fabulous. That looks like a still image, but it isn't. What you do is you take a photo. This is actually a slideshow creator, but what you can do is you can create a small piece of video in that, export it into something like Kino, and Marcel Gagne runs the Wiftle. He's a Canadian, does his own vodcasts as well. He's been on TV in the US and Canada. I created the intro for him for his video broadcasts, which uses this effect. It's a rotating box. You can actually take an image. You can even put moving image on the panels and rotate box in any direction or any angle that you like. It's really, really nice. Has some fabulous special effects. It's a bit of a, it's not very intuitive. This here, this is what I understand to mean. This is where the effect starts from. You should be able to let us have a still image and then allow the special effect to take over. But I don't bother, because I find it a bit cumbersome to do that. But it has a lot of different effects on it, and you can see the effects tab at the top. It has this really nice one, and now I'm sounding like a parent. You can have little teddy bears falling from the sky like rain. It is so cute. I love it. But if you're not a parent, you probably don't.
I think you've said this before, I'm not sure. Can you export the Kino movie as a Flash movie?
Yes.
You can?
And PEG 1, 2, FLV, OGG. DVAVI, AVI. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Sorry?
.mov?
I have no idea, because I wouldn't know what I would play that on.
Oh, it's an apple.
Oh, well, there you go. Can you?
I think the QuickTime's pretty native to Kino. The other stuff's really GIMP.
Yeah,
Some of it's illegal if you don't have a license to be encoding.
well, nobody's knocked on my door yet.
Yes, the RIAA doesn't offer it.
Is that who I got on my mobile? I was thinking, what's that stand for? ImageMagic is a command line interface. I'll give you an example. And this is, oh, it's James here who is writing on the SLUG commentary about GUIs and, no, he's not. Okay, I'll say anything then. So, there are some people here at SLUG, and I cannot remember their names, that have given me information about running things on the command line over the last 4 or 5 years, and I've, as you all have had the same experience, you write to the group and say, I can't understand this, and somebody writes back and explains it to you. It's been brilliant. That's how I've got a hang of this. So what this actually does, that command at the top, is it takes a collection of single frames that were exported from video and overlays them with this, which is itself moving footage. So when you play it back, you've got my kids bouncing off each other with pillows up themselves. I think you've seen a theme here about my kids being in videos. I don't know what else I would video actually. and then myself and my wife commentating on what's going on, obviously not immediately at the time. So you then have this playing in black and white with us talking here, or me mostly, my wife looking quite embarrassed in the background. Once you merge all those together, you've got two moving images, this one and this one. It's really nice. And then you fade that out, you change the black and white back to colour, and the video just carries on. It's very nice, and you can do that with ffmpeg. You can do it with Kino, and I suspect that you can do exactly the same thing with OneShot without having to touch the command line at all. But at the time you couldn't when I started doing it. ffmpeg is really, really good, and in fact just managed to get somebody at work to install it on the Windows machine because they're having problems with video transcoding. So you can transcode all sorts of video into all sorts of other video, bigger, smaller, clip bits, chop bits. Pretty neat. Once you get your head around all of that at the top, and this is the only thing I have against the command line, is you got to work it all out. Whereas with pretty pictures, you click on a pretty picture and a pretty thing happens. But that's pretty good, because the one thing that I like about this, and I'll confess, is that if I'm transcoding 4 different videos, I can do it all simultaneously without using an obvious graphic user interface. And I also know if a problem occurs. Now this is what might happen to you. You try to import a video into Kino, and it just seems to be saying it's importing it, and it carries on for a while, and you've no idea what's gone wrong. At least when you're doing it on the command line, you can actually see if there's a problem, because it immediately says, can't do it, faults out, don't know what your problem is, you haven't put the right thing in. So you don't sit there waiting for an hour to transcode your video. And if you want to do 4 videos at once that you want to transcode, I'll just come to you in a sec, you can do it.
You can also use ffmpeg to capture your video as well.
Absolutely, yep, that's right. And I use a DV grab to get my video from I use a Panasonic with 3 CCD charge coupled device, and for low light imagery it's brilliant, and it uses a Firewire connection, and I can import it using DV grab really easily. Very nice and simple.
You still have to use video capture card in your computer?
No. No, you just need a Firewire is dead simple.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. If you'd use a capture card if you were doing it in Windows, I suppose. I've never done it. Sorry? Okay, well, it shows my ignorance. I've never done it. Like I said, all my video is on Linux. I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start. Yeah, well, yeah, I would assume so, but I just wouldn't know any other way of getting it. You can use Kino. Kino will do it in a graphic interface to get your video. That's pretty easy. But those are the only 2 ways that I do it. I don't have a capture card on my desktop. Oh, sorry. I think I can go back one, can't I? How do I do that on this? Does that little thing work? Oh, there we go. Previous. There we go. ZS4 is the only one that won't be in your repositories. So you actually have to go to their site. It's not open source, but it is free. So it's halfway there. And then, like I said, the thing that I use it most for is the pan and zoom. It's so nice. It gives you this really absolutely lovely smooth panning and this absolutely lovely zooming effect as well. It's very well done. There are a couple of command line applications, and the names escape me because I don't use them, but they're rather more complicated because you then have to take the single image, you then have to work out where you want to start out, so you've got to measure it out to work out where you want to be, then you've got to measure the path to where you want to go, and then you've got to measure that path back again, and I find that not as easy for me. And there's the other ones for the last one, so anybody can get this if they would like it. And I think if I do that, there we go. Now, what you're looking at now is not what I want you to look at. Here we go. Paul Waper, was it 2 months back now, isn't it? That was giving a presentation. And I'll see if we actually get video on that, because Sridhar worked this out this afternoon. First class, Sridhar. Can you see a mouse on that? Oh, yes you can, good eye. So, okay, I'm going to use the mouse because it's much easier to use. As you can see, this is, I can't do it that way, it's a pause button. You can skip forward frames.
Is there audio in it?
Yes, there is. Maybe is there another button up, another thing I can plug in up here? I think James told me and I didn't do it.
Oh, you can hear it.
Yes. Thanks. Thanks for that. You can. Yeah, you can. When you're playing the video, yes, you can. If you are fast forwarding, no, you can't. But you don't really need to at that point. Was the one up here? That's okay. I'll just give you a quick rundown. As you can see, sorry, it's cut off the edge. These are all and this is the only thing with Keynote. It's actually much more stable than it used to be. But if you have probably in the range of maybe about 40 cuts, so 40 slices of video, sometimes it can be a little unhappy. It doesn't want to swallow that many at once. So I tend to keep my cuts. These little lines here represent where the video is cut. So literally that one is that video right at the top. I'll show you what this looks like. We'll go right to the beginning. It's literally is impossible to cover all applications, and this is a very shallow view. So this is the video we're creating. That effect is in Keynote. So what I've done is, I'll show you up here in the effects. So what you've got here is, no, sorry, just have to bear with me when I find this thing here. There we go. What you're wanting to do is at the very beginning, we'll go back to the beginning here, this is a fade in here. So that's a fade in from black, purely black, which you can see the tabs down the side. I tend to think they're fairly explanatory. This is your general editing. Make sure you can see the mouse. Yep, there we go. This is where you can capture the video if you want to use a graphic user interface to capture your video. This is literally all I do. I have my video camera turned off, I plug the FireWire into it, I switch it on. It comes up on Keynote, I press capture, and it starts my video camera. And this is just an ordinary, well not an ordinary, it's a reasonably okay Panasonic. And it automatically starts the camera, imports the video for you. It's dead simple, really, really easy. Here's a timeline. If you wanted to just check out, and see down here, this is where I usually work, is in frames. Frames are the easiest thing. I recommend doing most of your work in frames simply because 25 frames a second, you can work out when a second's gone. It's dead easy. You just multiply it to get minutes, really easy. But if you really want to look at seconds, you can look at it in hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds, rah. Trim, I don't use this function because I don't find I need to because I work in frames. If you're working in, like I said, we just changed it. If you're working in seconds, for instance, see how it changes here? So you might want to manually edit this to cut a piece out. I just find working in frames really simple to do. I can multiply the numbers in my head, and I am seriously completely pathetic at maths. I'm extraordinarily bad. Here's where you introduce an effect. So let's I'll just go back to your export, because somebody asked a question. We'll give you an example of what you can export it in. Others, they're not real. So you can have a dual pass on flash, dual pass MPEG 4, which plays really easily on my Nokia N95 8 gig mobile phone. Played really well on my Motorola 1000 too. You can convert it to OGG Theora QuickTime. There you go. Never used it. And video CD. You can also change it from the quality that you want, which obviously then dictates how big the file is going to be, but also reduces the size of the image too. Obviously, if you got a lot of quality at 12 frames a second, you're going to end up with stutter cam. And that's the thing to keep in mind doing any video editing, is that as soon as you drop below 25 frames a second, you're introducing a stutter to your image. Maybe it's a special effect that you want, that's fine, but it's not smooth. And if you get a stutter, you should realise that's probably what it is. It could also be that your machine's not particularly powerful and it's having huge problems processing the video. That's a big problem as well. As far as, actually, sorry, just go back to that one. So you're looking at this, so we went to MPEG 4 AVI, and then again, you then get a new collection of options to change. I can honestly say that I use very few of these because I tend not to need them. Well, there's a couple that I do use. If we go back to MPEG, just do what I want you to do, please. Hang on a second. I'll choose this video, and that one. Then we go back to export. Okay, there we go. We haven't installed it. This is not my laptop, by the way, so this is why I can't show you this. We needed to install MPEG 2 ENC. It gives you, the one I tend to use is, because I tend to make DVDs, is this. And this plays really nicely with DVD creators like ManDVD and DVD Styler, and another's a really popular one, QDVD Author. So this plays really well in all those. They'll import it, they'll create a DVD for you. Sometimes if you don't use that, they'll spit it out because they don't like it. You can change the aspect ratio as well from 4:3 to 16:9 if you like. Make sure you do that not in the middle of what you're working on, because it will throw out everything. Some of your video will be nice, some of it will be really awful and stretched out and look strange. So I'm sorry I can't show you that. With audio, you can export the audio, and this is what I tend to do. Export the audio from the video and convert that to something else that I want it, to edit it in something like Audacity, and then you import it back in. Really, really easy to import it. If you look at special effects, you got a audio filter here, and you can choose to dub the video back in. It's dead easy, really, really simple. You then open it up and choose it. You can also change here, as you can see, you can make it slightly quieter to start off with, and you can choose that that little bit's going to be louder if you want to. You can play with it. I tend to do everything in Audacity, but it's pretty easy to do in this for some parts of it. Look down here, the preview window. So if I just start this, it should give us a... Now why is that showing? No. Oh, this is just a function of the problem that we're having generating video from this to the screen, sorry. So in effect what you get down here, you can't see it, I can, it looks quite good, is a small image of what's running past on your screen. You can actually see that. Now if we get rid of this here, one thing to remember, and this is a big thing in Keynote, always make sure that you change your filters back to no filter or no change before you apply another one. I learned to do some really, really absolutely cool special effects by forgetting to do that. And then I thought, oh, how did I do it? Because now it's nice, but I don't actually want that right now. I had to sort of work my way back. So always change your filters back to no change or no filter. Otherwise, you're going to start finding some very strange things happening. That's one thing to remember all the time. If we go, there we go. To cut video, you can use the graphic user interface if you want to. Here's some little icons up the top. So you've got, which I tend not to use, you can import a file before the current scene, so another video file, or after the current scene. The current scene, as you can quite easily see here, if I click on that, it should show, here we go. So that equates with this here. Mine's grey at home, so I can more easily see it. But as soon as you click on one of these, that changes to whichever one it is that you're going to use. So to cut a piece of video, if you want to splice it, literally Control-J, and that should give me a little mark there. It's not that hard. If I want to move that piece now, so I'll just click on the piece where it is. There it is. I want to drag it down so it's lower. Literally just click and drag and pull it down below. What I tend to do is, the bits I think I might want later on, push them all to the bottom so I've got an area to work on. This is the only problem with Keynote, is that you then have this massive list of things, like 40 splices, and you're having to scroll up and down to find the one that you want. That's problematic. You get used to it, but it doesn't make you happy. Do you want to then put these two back together again? So to splice, you can see up here, it gives you nice little things. There you go. It says cut scene. We'll literally create a cut. Oh, sorry, or remove a scene, I should say. That's why I don't use this. Control Z, well, that's FN. Control Z will pull it all back for you. Here we go. So that will actually split the scene. That will join this and the next scene together. So what you do is you work in your scenes, make the modifications that you want, you join them together. Try to keep it under maybe probably 3 dozen splices. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Some other very, very simple things that you can do. We'll go back to effects. So say we wanted to create an effect on this part of this video here. We want to overwrite that with a video filter. What we might want to do is say, let me make a very simple one. Here we go, color average. Actually, no, I won't do that because it'll take up far too much time. You want to fade out from this video, and we'll go back to what I work in is frames. What I want to do is we'll do it over 5, so that makes it, as I said, I'm really bad at maths. 1, 10, we'll make it 90, actually 90. There we go, like that. You then hit, this is play, and it should give you an idea of what it looks like. There you go. So it'll loop that effect for you. You can see that that will fade that out, and what we want to do is render that. Yep. So you hit render, and it'll actually render this, and that's quite quick for this. It's only a little old machine. So we take that and we play it. Oh, not enough frames. But you get the idea. You choose, if you work in frames, you choose how many frames, which then dictates the length of time that you want to fade out. Really nice fade outs, 20 seconds. 20 frames, just under 1 second. It gives you this nice, smooth fade out on an effect. The best thing to do is to practice on your effects first with some video that it really doesn't matter. You get an idea of what you like and what seems nice. That's a really, really supremely brief overview of Kino. If you play with it, that's my suggestion. Play with it with a bit of video that you're not particularly attached to. Try all the effects. Remember to undo something. Go back to no change before you try something else. There are lots of different effects. Your effects are applied over a collection of frames. Like I said, I can only say this again. Just stick with frames, it's easy. You choose the number of frames you want the effect to occur over, and then you apply that. See if you like it. Control Z, you just go straight back to what it was before. It's very, very easy.
Just one quick question. I know that VideoMax and Kino editing programs all save their projects under different headings. You mentioned with your first video that you used Kino, GIMP, and all the others.
Still do.
I'm guessing you have to save a project export a project as a file type,
Yep.
re-import it to the next.
If you save this, for instance, here, if you save the project, what it actually does, it creates a file. You choose where you want to put it. But this smil file is actually a list of all of these clips and where they're actually located. So what it does is it creates, it transcodes it into a .dv, into raw DV file. And these can be very, very big. That's the other thing, you need a lot of room. And then what it does is that file actually tells it where all those files are located on your hard drive and what sequence they come in. So when you open that in Kino, it puts them all back to where you had them, which is separate to saving the video. That's only saving your project. Has anybody used Audacity? It does the same thing. You save a project, but it doesn't necessarily affect the audio that you're working with. That smil file is just a text file. It tells it where everything is. But if you want to save your video, you need to export it if you don't want it in the fashion that it is. I used to do this, raw DV, a lot, but actually found that this was much happier. And I was much happier with it as well, DVAVI Type 1. The big files. The month before last, the video was 8 gig. Before I started working on it, I ended up with about 30 gigs that I was working on, probably a bit more than that. So you need a fair bit of space to work on. But you can save the video that you're working on, and I suggest that you can do that as a separate file. Oh, sorry, you can't see my finger. As a separate file, and then place it somewhere that you obviously know where it is. If you then open that in Kino, you're immediately using video. You're not transcoding anything. You're not fiddling around. The same with this. You're not waiting for your video. But what you do now have is you have your original video, and you now have a separate file that you're working on. So if your original video is 3 gig and you import it into Kino and save it as a DVAVI or a raw DV file, you're going to have a massive file which is separate. It's what's it called? Non-destructive. That was the word I was looking for. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Margaret is exactly right. It's a really good point. If you're continually saving it into something else and then re-importing it and exporting it and re-importing it, you end up losing a lot of quality. You're best off just keeping it in the raw video format till you've finished, until you decide what you want to do.
Now, it used to be the QuickTime used to be on that screen then.
Oh, and this one, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, they've moved it over here into your others.
Yeah.
There it is. Yep. I know that's really fast. It's a really brief explanation of how to use it. I have an almost completed explanation of some basic instructions in Kino on my website. It's not quite finished, but it's close enough. Some people reckon that they can use it. It's not very good, but I still think you can still use it from what you can see on those instructions. What I'm trying to do is actually write some instructions, or at least give links to really good instructions for every other application. So instead of everybody doing what I had to do with search high and low, you can go to one place and at least link into other explanations. The gentleman over here had a question. James wants to tie us up.
I was just going to suggest that perhaps you should break for pizza.
Oh, good idea.
And maybe come back in
Sure.
10, 15 minutes to finish this up.
Thanks.